Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Still in the grips of a bit of illness, I'm here to record some more legacy content for you. Today's list is a Green Sun Zenith Cradle Control style deck list. I think this deck list comes from Matt Soleil. He's been having pretty good success with it online lately. And, you know, anything to break up the world of Blue-Black RESCAMINATOR, which is doing some very disgusting things to the legacy format right now. It's officially over 50% of the format, so here we are playing something else today. This deck, we have a pretty deep Green Sun Zenith package. We can go up the top end with things like Atraxa and Craterhoof once we're getting all our mana going. But then we've got all of our mana dorks down here. We've got Reclaimer, which is great against Scam because you can go and tutor up Bojuka Bogs. We've got Springheart Nantuko, this is a new one. Landfall, you get a 1-1, but you can enchant a creature with this, and then when you pay 2, when you landfall, you get a copy of the creature. So we can make copies of, like, a Craterhoof, for example. If we've had like a small Craterhoof that's not good enough, we can then put this on Craterhoof, and then we can landfall, get another Craterhoof, and that should be enough. Or we can get an Endurance and just keep clearing the graveyard, that sort of jam. Instead of using something like Fiend Artisan, this deck is now using Wight of the Reliquary. So we can pull out the lands we need with this. And the lands we're going to be pulling out mostly is going to be Gaia's Cradle, but then we've got Lair of the Hydra, a couple of this new land, which phases out a creature. That's pretty cool. We can use it to protect stuff or to get rid of blockers. And then we've got the Dryad Arbor, so we're not trying to pull out the whole world of weird and wonderful lands and Maze of Iths and all that sort of thing. We just have a few specific things we're going for. And we're going to be trying to bash our opponents with some creatures for the most part. As a sort of mid-rangey deck, but we do have a combo finish in the form of Natural Order, which we can obviously use to get Craterhoof and just go pretty wild. There's a few Once Upon a Time in here to smooth things out, which feels pretty strong in here. And yeah, that's pretty much the list. Sideboard-wise, we've got some tools for combo, like Vexing Bauble here, and some Thought Seizes. We've got Collector Ouphe, which is a great Green Sun Zenith target to slow down some of these artifact combo decks. Gaea T can stop people casting things like Beseech the Mirror and all that jazz. Bit of graveyard hate to go with our 4 Endurance and Faerie Macabre, some more artifact enchantment hate. A real bit of removal because we don't really have any in the main deck, so we've got that in the sideboard instead. Alright, that's pretty much it. That's the list. We're going to make some little guys, then make some big guys, and hopefully crush some of these filthy blue-black RESCAMINATOR decks. Alright, like and subscribe, and let's get cooking. We are on the play for round 1. This is too many lands, so I'm going to send these ones back into the deck. This is better. We can keep this, and I'll ditch one of the forests. Just going to lead out with a nice little forest into Elvish Reclaimer. We're going to save the Misty Rainforest because we might want to get a Bayou, and we don't want that to get wastelanded. So we start off on the forest. Next turn we could play Reclaimer, Cradle, and then activate Reclaimer, which is not a bad option to have. If our opponent is on some sort of scam list, we at least have some graveyard hate locked and loaded to go from turn 2 onwards. Alright, we're getting griefed, so we're going to lose a Natural Order, I would imagine, here. If they've got the Reanimate, they obviously get to take both of our spells. Right, taking the Reclaimer, are they going to get us back with the Reanimate? A basic Swamp and a Dark Ritual. Okay, so we might be looking at more of like a Reanimation. Oh, Opposition Agent. That's very good against the cards in our hand and in our deck. Okay. So we got these fetch lands. These are not a maze. We can't just put them into the graveyard for the purposes of pumping this without our opponent getting to tutor a land out of our deck. Alright. I'm not sure how well this is going to go for us. So I'll probably play the Cradle out next turn, depending on what other land we get. Fatal Push. Alright, there goes our only thing we had going for us. So now there's no reason for us to crack these fetch lands just to try and pump the Reclaimer. Like, that'll give us our opponent the ability to get a land. Alright. Need some help here, deck. A Bayou. That is useful. That is a thing that lets us cast some spells. So a Wight of the Reliquary would be a 4/4, which is a very handy power and toughness given the state of the board right now. But we basically get one activation of this Bayou before it gets wastelanded. And the Cradle is off, obviously, not making mana. Okay, we've got another Dark Ritual. It's going to be a Dathi Void Walker. Yeah, that's pretty good. Mono Black Scam, eh? Our opponent's only got one card in hand. Very funny. Okay, I'm going to play this Cradle out to try and bait this wasteland. Yeah, our deck is shut down pretty hard by the old Opposition Agent. Yeah, Mono Black Scam is something that I've been a big champion of since, what, August last year, I think it was. Is why I took to the big Legacy tournament I went to, the Legacy Masters. And, yeah, various scam flavors, still pretty strong. Alright, so we're going to get bashed again. We're just going to put us to 8. If we can find a creature here, we can deploy. Oh, there's more. 3 Dark Rituals. This one, just going to make a Dally Voidwalker. Alright. So this is lethal damage on board now. So we have to find like a Wight of the Reliquary style card here. Nope, that's not going to do it. We just got absolutely beaten by just Opposition Agent was enough to beat us there. Okay, this means I would very much like to have something like a Dismember in here. Snuff Outs, unfortunately, don't do anything. So these can just stay away for now. Now what? Is it just the one Dismember we get here? Could well be. I'm not really a fan of Snuff Out in Legacy right now. People started playing Dark Betrayal, which is black, instant destroy target black creature. That's the sort of the level we're at the moment in the format. So I'm not really sure that having Snuff Outs is the best use of our sideboard. We'll see. I'm kind of reluctant to have this Atraxa because our opponent can reanimate it themselves. So maybe just swap that for the Dismember. Like, our mid-rangey guys are fine here. No. We need a land. Okay. Yeah, I'll keep this one. I think I'm going to get rid of the Bojuka Bog for now. So we're going to fire off our Once Upon a Time first. See what we can rustle up. A Noble Hierarch is probably where I want to be here. Right, let's jam the Hierarch. This allows us to play Springheart Nantuko next turn. And make 2 1/1s off of it. There's a Marsh Flats. Cracking the Marsh Flats. I don't think this means our opponent is playing white. I think it means our opponent has some Surveil lands. Dark Ritual. Is this going to be your friend and mine, Opposition Agent? Orcish Baymasters. Okay, that's a perfectly serviceable card. What are you going to do with that extra 1 mana? Thoughtseize? No. Just a Dark Ritual as a Lotus Petal. Understood. What I like here. I think I'm going to get a... Get the Bayou here. And we Green Sun Zenith for Springheart Nantuko. No, sorry, not Springheart. Elvish Reclaimer. That is the biggest thing on the board right now. And gives us options moving forward. Next turn we can do the Springheart, play a land, play an Ignoble Hierarch. Bash for a reasonable chunk. Alright, we can't do it. Sure. Undersea Sewers. I do not believe our opponent has blue in their deck. I left a card on top. That doesn't fill me with the most amount of joy. I think I'm going to cast this Springheart. And we will get ourselves a little trigger. And we'll get ourselves a little Hierarch. So we've got mana underneath us. Lands are okay draws. Spells obviously good draws. We've set ourselves up to do like Craterhoof things if we need to. We can also like jump our opponent with an endurance. Is our opponent willing to attack here? I'm just going to take this one. So it's like a trap. And just having the extra bodies in play is good considering our game plan revolves around having a lot of bodies in play for Craterhoof. And Once Upon a Time. I think I'm just going to pass here. With the intention of using this endurance. Sure, an upper agent. We can try and smash that in combat with an endurance. They might not attack, but we'll see. A wasteland. That is slightly irritating, but oh no, our opponent's got something big. A grief, you say? I guess we're casting this endurance. Let's resolve and see how they stack their triggers. Oh, I know they only have the one trigger here, don't they? Alright, we're just going to play our creature here. And have the biggest game in town. Don't want these cards in our opponent's graveyard. If our opponent's running Murderous Cut, which they could be running, I don't want these in their graveyard. I think I'm okay to put them away. They might also have something like a Nethergoyf, so shrinking the size of their graveyard isn't the worst. We're going to lose this Once Upon a Time, but we have a big enough creature that our opponent can't attack us profitably. We have more bodies. We can't just straight up natural order if we'd find one. Another endurance, okay. Let's attack with a 4/5. And now we've got the endurance back for blocks as well. Let's make an elemental. Shuffle anything in here. Does our opponent have a response before we go to blocks? Because we can clean this grief off the board. Okay, doesn't look like our opponent wants us to clean the grief off the board. Go for the throat. Sure. I'm just going to take the damage here. 4-turn clock. We've got a 4-turn clock. Powder keg. Okay, so they can blow this and take out our insect. We do have 4 different CMCs among our 4 creatures, though. So there is that. Natural order. Let's jam with the endurance. If we can draw a dismember and get this opposition agent off the board, then we can try natural order and just win the game. Our opponent's life total is pretty low in terms of Craterhoof lines. I don't believe our opponent's just going to raise his powder keg to 3 and blow it and take out their own upper agent. Alright, they've got it on 1, so they're going to take out our Hierarch, probably. Or they could take out the Springheart Nantuko. Hierarch is the only thing they can take out that won't impact their board. Another grief. Yep, that's pretty annoying because we don't have the ability to race this in any way, shape or form now. 1 card left in our opponent's hand. Alright, I think we're in the situation where we have to double block this grief here. Not what I wanted. So we probably have to stop attacking now as well. A Windswept Heath. I think we'll play it, but we're not cracking that. Alright, they're taking out our Ignoble Hierarch. That means our opponent can just attack us with a grief, but if we attack with the endurance this time, then they just get to crack back for loads. So we have to just say this and let them slowly hit us over a few turns with the grief, and maybe we can find an answer. The fact that we have black available off the Bayous is a bit of a saving grace potentially, because it means if we do draw our one of dismember, we can kill their things without having to worry about paying life. If there was no opposition agent, we could go and get a Dryad Arbor and do a nice little double block there. But opposition agent is, yeah, it's just going to solo us out. Alright, I'm happy to draw some extra cards over there. Underground Mortuary. This gives us a little look at the future. No Cradle, please. Right, so we're going to go to 6 on our opponent's turn. I think we're doing better off against a blue-black RESCAMINATOR deck than a mono-black one. Just because the opposition agent is such a beating for us. Okay, so this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this puts us to 1. I don't think there's anything realistically is going to get us out of this one. Yeah, this was a match brought to you by Opposition Agent. When this card is good, it is backbreaking. Okay, let's go to round 2. This hand is a little bit mana heavy, isn't it? I think this is okay enough to keep, though. Elvish Reclaimer is just such a good card to have these days. Alright, so we're going to get ourselves a basic forest. Play out the Reclaimer. We can start doing Reclaimery goodness. A basic swamp. What flavour of basic swamp is this going to be? It's a grief! Pitching Ripples of Undeath. At least there's something interesting going on over there. This is a card that people have asked me about a lot. I think the costs for playing this is quite high because 1 mana and 3 life for 1 card is a lot. But if you can really leverage the fact that 3 cards have been put into your graveyard as well and make it more like a draw 3, then I think it's got some merit to it. Whether or not this is a format for it, I don't know. Oh, are we just getting fully wombo comboed on turn 1? There's a Grizzlebrand in our opponent's graveyard. And there is now a Grizzlebrand in play. I don't think I'm realistically beating that, so let's try again. Faerie Macabres, you can come and say hello. Nothing else here is that interesting to me. I guess the Thoughtseize is probably worth a go. So we want to keep the Once Upon a Times in because we've got some Faerie Macabres that we can hit with them. So it just gives us more graveyard hate, and that's the main thing we're looking for. The Thoughtseize is something I'd like to have in, but I'm not so sure if we need it in. The Atraxa, we can probably take the Atraxa out. That gives us one of our Faerie Macabres. The Wight is just more graveyard hate, so we definitely want that. I think the Springheart is like a key part of our engine, so we want to keep this too. I'm not convinced we need 2 Talon gates. Let's get rid of one of those. So that gives us 60. If we want to fit in 4 Thoughtseize, how would we go about doing that? We probably have to trim on other 1-drops. So probably like stripping out some of these, but then that's less green cards to do our natural order stuff. Strip out these. I think on the play we probably do just want the Thoughtseize, but on the draw we don't. Let's try it like this. No. This hand is pretty blank. We just be relying on the once upon a time to get it done. I think we can do better. Okay, this is better. Don't need natural order for now. Obviously going to keep our graveyard hate. We're going to keep a green card to go with it, which means it's probably the Dryad Arbor that goes bye-bye here. So let's play this Windswept Heath and pass. We've got 2 points of collapse for a graveyard-based engine. That will leave us with basically nothing going on. We might be in the weird, let's make some Dryad Arbors and beat down plan, which is not how I drew it up. Ripples of Undeath. Sure. I think I will turn this into a Dryad Arbor. Just get that tapped. Oh, effectively tapped land out of the way. Because we can't activate yet. We could get the... actually, no. I think... Do we want the Mausoleum? Or Mortuary, even? Yeah, I think I'll get one of those. If we can find another green card, then we can deploy the Wight. Let's get a forest here. So now we've got our Wight of the Reliquary. This can just chip away with its vigilance. And when we discard the Faerie Macabre, we get a little bit more juice on those attacks. Alright, so the Thoughtseize, a Grizzlebrand, and a Swamp. They get one of those cards for 1 mana and 3 life. Which one would you like, opponent? I've not seen this Ripples of Undeath played yet. So I am curious to see how it goes. So we're going to learn something this game, at the very least. I've taken the Thoughtseize. A Dark Ritual. They would like to reanimate their Grizzlebrand. Let's say no to that with a Faerie Macabre. Because I'd much rather have the endurance to hard cast next turn, if that's the thing that we get to do. Thoughtseize. Sure. They're Thoughtseizing themselves to put an Archon of Cruelty into the graveyard. Let's endurance our opponent. Right, so now we've got a 4/4 with vigilance. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand that is Mutated Cultist, which is an odd one. Probably means our opponent's got a Dark Depths package. I think it's worth just getting this just so we have more land to work with so we can hard cast some endurances and stuff. Splash for 4. So 1 more attack and we can shut off Reanimate as a useful card. Grief, Animate Dead, Dark Ritual. So the fact that you have to pay 1 mana to use this ability is a lot. You don't actually have to pay the 1 until you've seen the cards. Our opponent is putting the mana in before the ability resolves. You don't have to do that. You can wait for the ability to resolve, and then it's got then you may clause halfway through. So you do get to see the cards before you want them. They took the Animate Dead over there. Right, we'll bash for this. Now we've just got our paying here. Mutated Cultist, Swamp, Unmask. Oh, they're going to 1 life here. This is their big play. They chose Mutated Cultist, which does not pitch to like Grief and Unearth type stuff because it's colourless. Animate Dead on the Grief. So this is going to be a chump blocker at this point. But sometimes you've got to do stuff to survive, right? In comes the Wight. Zombie Supremacy, good. So our opponent doesn't get any more cards out of the Ripples of Undeath now because they only have 1 life left. It still mills them though, so it can put like a big scary monster in the graveyard that they can reanimate with something. Just more Grief, more Animate Dead. There's the Dark Depths. So now we're going to see the Mutated Cultist line coming. Yep. That is a 2020. I don't think they're going to do anything with the mana left over. So we need to deal 1 damage to our opponent. But I don't think we're going to have the way to do that, if I'm being perfectly honest. A Green Sun Zenith. There is nothing that Green Sun Zenith does that helps us out here. It can get us another creature, but we don't have like a Sajiri step here. Not that that would matter because they have a colourless blocker and a black blocker. Yeah, I think our opponent's got us there. GG's. Pretty cool. Yeah, Ripples of Undeath. First time seeing it. Looked okay. I think our opponent had to spend a lot of mana and a lot of life for it. It did work out in the end for them, so that's kind of intriguing. Oh well, two rounds done already. Yikes. Let's go to round 3. Okay, I'm going to keep this one. We're going to play out the Elvish Reclaimer because having access to... Actually, no, the Bojuka Bog's in our hand. Does that change things? We can still threaten the Bojuka Bog even if it's not in our hand. Sorry, even if it's not in our deck. Because our opponent doesn't know that. So let's play out this Reclaimer first. We can also threaten Echoing Deeps as well if our Bojuka Bog is in play. We don't have it, but we can threaten it. A Verdant Catacombs. Basic Forest. Birchlaw Ranges. This is another list that I was tempted to play today, actually. Sort of more like classic combo elves. Not even with Nadu, just acknowledging that people don't really want to play Orcish Bowmaster at the moment because people need Doughty Voidwalkers instead. So the elf deck can kind of have a little bit of space to operate in. Okay, I'm going to play out a Noble Hierarch. Then I'll play out this Cradle. I can activate the Cradle if I want to. And I can turn a land into something else. So we could phase out one of their guys to try and slow down whatever their turn is. I think that's a reasonable way to use our mana. Otherwise we can go and get a Dryad Arbor instead of this forest and then have more mana to work with. We need our opponent to not combo us too hard, too quickly. A Savannah. Springheart Nantuko. Card is good. So our opponent is probably on the... It could be the Bant Nadu version. We'll see. Dryad Arbor here. Endurance. It's not the... We can start attacking our opponent, or we could try and phase out one of their guys. Let's crack this to make our Reclaimer 3/4. I think we're just going to try and aggro our opponent out here, because we can play a decent chunk of creatures this turn. If we get the Mortuary, tap this to make the Reclaimer. This gives us 3 mana here, 4 mana. If we get a Bayou here... Wait, sorry, if we get this one, play this. This taps for 4, 5. If we get the Bayou here, use this to play the Reclaimer. This taps for 4, and then we have 2 mana left over. So we do want to get the Bayou here. So we can deploy both of these endurances for maximum amount of aggression. This means we can attack with a 4/5 this turn and attack with 3 power guys next turn. Is that going to beat a combo deck? Probably not. Is it all we have? Not necessarily. We could just try and phase out one of their creatures and try and live for a turn that way, but I don't think that feels like a great use. I'd rather get the damage down in front of us and then start messing with what they've got. Because buying ourselves 1 turn when we need several turns isn't good enough. But if we can get in a position where buying 1 turn is enough and can kind of come out of nowhere, then we'll be in a much better place. Alright, a fetch land is very good here. It's going to give them many tokens. Alright, here is the problem child of this situation. They don't have anything to go with it just yet. So there is a slight modicum of hope. I don't believe our opponent has any counter magic in their deck. Certainly not in the main deck. I don't really want these lands in my opponent's deck either. Now would be a great time to draw Natural Order. Or even Green Suns probably does it here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Can we Craterhoof our way to victory? That doesn't look like a Craterhoof, does it? In fact, I would say this looks like the exact opposite of a Craterhoof. So we could phase this out. I don't think that's where I need to be here. Alright, I think we're going to attacks. We're attacking with 2 endurances so we can hold up the Reclaimers. Or we can attack with just 1 that's guaranteed to be big enough to kill the Nadu. That's probably okay as well. Now, they'll probably just chub block or ignore this. And I guess we'll play another creature. Yeah, so we've got 9 draws that will win us the game. So our opponent plays something like a Shuko or a Nomads in Core, then we need to phase out this Nadu. Well, this is what we trained for, I guess, isn't it? Okay. So they get 1 card off of this. They get their Nadu trigger. Some land, which gets them a 1/1. They're going to get themselves another 1/1 here. And a Surveil land. Alright. Another Nantuko. Okay. There's a lot of 1/1s over there. Now, Craterhoof is still going to be more than enough damage to go over the top of this. A Sylvan Safekeeper. So we didn't get to phase anything out ever again. Going to be tough. Let's get rid of this Talon Gate and see if we can find a Surveil land. There it is. Wight of the Reliquary. That is not good enough. Can we find the Natural Order or the Craterhoof or the Green Sun or a basic, well, not basic land. They can find a basic land. Yes, the Nadu is going to come back and we don't get to do anything here. They can chomp block our guys. There's no way we can push through these amount of blockers, and there's no way our opponent fails to win the game next turn. Nope, that's us done there. Yeah. Nardu, eh? Well, the snuff outs look okay here, at least. And just remember, our deck's just not very good at interacting, which is a little bit of the problem. We could board in Thoughtseize to try and snipe out a Nardu, but in order to do this, we have to go slower. And I don't know if that's a great idea for us. The 4 endurance aren't great here, because we didn't really care about their graveyard. I don't believe they have like a Cephalid Breakfast plan bedded within it. They're just doing the sort of classic, I say classic, it's relatively new still, the Nardu-E combo. We'll probably get rid of a Bojuka Bog here, and that lets us play 2 Thoughtseize without slowing ourselves down with these things, by not having these. There's no point bringing Force of Vigor, because our opponent isn't a Shuko deck. They're a Nomads deck. And then they use the Sylvan Safekeeper and stuff like that. Okay, I think this will do. I could bring in Teague to stop their bits and pieces, but the problem is it stops our bits and pieces too. And we need ours to go underneath our opponent's combo. So we could play this one, and we go turn 1 Hierarch, turn 2 Dryad Arbor, and then sort of nothing, really. We'd have to... Turn 3 we could Natural Order, but it's not going to be a big enough one, and it can't get an Atraxa even if we wanted that. I think this is the mulligan. Okay, we can throw away the Atraxa. Once upon a time can hit us a land. I am okay with this one. We want to play the Ignoble ahead of the Noble, because the Ignoble is just better for us. Because we actually have these colours in our deck, so we get the use of the black mana out of it. Keep this, get rid of the Atraxa. Alright, once upon a time, it's time to shine. I think I want the land here. This one out. Our opponent's not going to mess with our lands, so we might as well just get the Bayou here. So we want to fire off the Thoughtseize to turn before our opponent can play a Nardu, because that's just the one card we have to hit. A Misty Rainforest getting a Savannah. A Chrono Ranger. So they can cast a Nardu next turn. Potentially. No, they can't cast a Nardu next turn. Right? This is not the one that gives them the extra mana. Okay. So we've got another turn of developing potentially before we have to worry about trying to snipe that Nardu out of our opponent's hand. Let's get ourselves another Bayou. Make the Wight. Another Hierarch. You can pay 4 mana to put the Talon Gates from your hand into play. Just pay 4 mana to phase something out for a turn. Which is an option available to us next turn, but we're probably just going to be Thoughtseizing instead. You see like Springheart Nantuko or something. A Safekeeper. Yeah, that's pretty good. Right, so this is the turn we Thoughtseize before the Nardu comes down and wrecks our day. To draw some kind of... Okay, I was going to say some kind of natural order, but that's not what we drew. So let's Thoughtseize our opponent, see how bad it is. Well, well, well. If it isn't multiple Nardus. We can't take out both the Nardus. Does this mean we're taking out the Craterhoof and at least having an impact with this Thoughtseize? I think it does. Let's make another Wight. Let's go attacks. We don't have Wastelands we can fetch here either. Attack with a 4-4. You may get a 5-5 by turning one of these Hierarchs into a land. I think it's probably worth doing. Even if it's just a Dryad Arbor. It's not like our phasing is going to matter here. So we can go and get ourselves a Cradle if we want one here. Which doesn't really help us cast the... I think I'm just going to get the Is there on the Underground Mortuary? I think so. Let's just dig towards the natural order to get those last bits of damage through. A Green Sun Zenith. Is that good enough here? Doesn't feel like it is, which is a terrible place to be for our deck built around Green Sun Zenith shenanigans. What does this find us? Finds us more mana dorks? That doesn't really help. Finds us... we net natural order, really. Is natural order or bust here? I might as well play this and see if we can phase out this Ranger. See if it'll make our opponent sacrifice any lands or make any errors. It's not going to do anything. Because it phases everything in your untapped step that is phased out, phases in. And anything with phasing that is phased in, phases out. So we didn't achieve anything with Talon Gates, but we might have got a land sacrificed off our opponent. Delighted Halfling was their draw. Okay. Play out the Cradle here. They play out a Nardu. They get 1 activation per Ranger to dig for another spell. But they won't... they can untap a creature, so they can't actually make the mana they need here to make like a Nomads. There's the Nomads for next turn, and they bounced the Savannah they had so that we couldn't wasteland it. Not that we have wastelands. Oh, no, sorry, they get loads of activations here, don't they, actually, because they got the Safekeeper. Whoops. They get 2 more. We can still win this one. We just need our opponent to pass a turn and us to draw a natural order. Like, they probably will just sack this other land and go all in. Or they might save it just to keep their Nadu alive. Alright. We need a natural order here. That is not a natural order. So we can attack here. So we can deal our opponent 8 damage. So we get here. We can get the Lair of the Hydra. Gives us another attacker. We can just get this Dryad Arbor. Probably fine. Alright. We put our opponent to 6. Then they untap. They play Nomads and Core. And then they basically ping their entire library at us. It's all just going to flip off the top. I will let them play it out this time. We are dead. The amount of creatures they have in play should be deterministic. We could have got another 2 points of damage in by sacrificing the Dryad Arbor to the other Wight to get another Dryad Arbor. But we didn't have... If we had an Underground Mortuary in our deck, we could do that, get the Mortuary and try and mill over 1 more creature. And that could have been a line for lethal. But it's not what we had. Right, we'll let our opponent ping through this now, just because... It lets you see what's going on. So we can just F6 through this. Our opponent's going to target each of their creatures twice with Nomads. And every time they do so, it's going to draw them a card. And if that card is a land, it's going to put it straight into play. So far, it's a Trop and a Bojuka Bog. They've got 10 more cards coming off the top. And they've got more creatures they can deploy. They can then get more things going on. They can also replay this Nadu, and then it resets it for all of them. Which is, as you can imagine, a very silly thing that is allowed to happen. So there's the Elves. So got another Cradle. So it's just going to generate lots and lots and lots of mana here. In a lot of ways, our opponent's doing similar things to us, except they've got this absolutely bonkers draw engine that just immediately wins you the game. We did play a deck that looked a bit like this. It was like an early iteration of this where it didn't have the Nomads and things in it. Right, so we've got some mana coming in off the Druid. I'm just going to skip to when they do something really interesting or they put the kill on the stack. So now they have a Bristly Bill in play. What the Bristly Bill allows them to do is pump up their creatures so they can actually have a lethal attack this turn. Because we have taken their Craterhoof. The Allosaurus Shepherd also gives them larger creatures too. Alright, our opponent's been dirling around for quite some time now, and now they only have 28 seconds on the clock, and they're finally putting their win condition into play, which is the Thassa's Oracle. So if I'd have made them play it out in game 1, I think we probably would have won this one on time. But there we are. Yep, our opponent's doing a similar thing to us, but their version is a lot more powerful in the fact that they have this huge draw engine. Now, we do have the sort of lower to the ground nickel and dime style of playing like reasonable creatures like Wight the Reliquary, which can just beat down, as well as just going, oops, I natural order you. So that's the thing that we have available to our opponent doesn't necessarily in the same way. But yeah, not a great league so far. Let's go to round 4. Alright, we've got some creatures, we've got some lands. This is the sort of hand that should be alright for us. It's kind of what our deck does, really. It just plays out some creatures. I think we are probably playing out the Reclaimer, because if our opponent is some sort of scout deck, we want to be able to interact with their graveyard from turn 2 onwards. It's a scam deck. Grief, Pitching, Psychic Frog. So they get to take out something. Our hand is pretty happy to get... Well, not happy, but pretty fine getting scammed here, because we're not going to lose anything too high impact here. They might take out both the Wights if they're going to reanimate this. That'll leave them in an okay spot. Yep, there's the first one gone. And here comes Grief to take the second. Alrighty. So we now have a decision to make. Are we holding up this Reclaimer to deal with Entomb Reanimate shenanigans? Or do we need to get something going on our side of the board? I think we need to get something going. If we get Entomb Reanimated, that is obviously unfortunate. So this is going to give us a 3-4 in attacks. But if we can hit our opponent's life total a few times, we can make it so that the reanimate itself as a card is no longer live. So we'll put our opponent down to 13. We need to dodge and Tomb Reanimate here. But I think if we just sit back and do nothing, that also doesn't feel great. If we had another land, so we could guarantee that we can start making plays the turn after, then maybe. But let's say we did hold up for the Bojuka Bog this turn. And we untap, we draw, we don't draw another land. Then what are we doing? We're just in the exact same holding pattern with nothing to show for it. We need to get something on the board. Otherwise, we're just baking in failure. Alright, blue-black, Greer Frog. Sure. I'm not going to double block with my 2 mana docks here. That doesn't seem like a strong use of my time. So this frog can be a 4/5. If they want to throw everything into it. If my opponent throws everything into that, it would certainly be an annoying one for us. I think I'm going to play the Wight, because that can certainly be big enough to do a whole bunch of things. Okay, so we can hold up a Reclaimer activation. We've got a reasonable section of stuff going on here. I think we do need to hold up the Reclaimer activation. We can use that to go and get something like a Cradle if we want it. Or we can get a Dryad Arbor, because that helps us pump the the Wight of the Reliquary. Flow Strand for our opponent. Okay, they've got an Undercity Sewers, getting a little bit of Surveil action going. Got rid of a Murktide Regent, sure. No attack from our opponent. Okay, let's turn this forest into a Cradle here. Or do you want the Dryad Arbor? Or we could get the Talon Gate and just phase out our opponent's frog. Or we could save that for later as a plan. No, I think I'll just get a Cradle. Make sure we've got lots of mana. Natural order, you say. Right, let's play out this Elvish Reclaimer. And then we'll have 5 mana, and we can natural order. This is a round of days. Our opponent could have a Force of Will here. But we can certainly be a daze. Oh, okay. Well, we're just in with big Craterhoofs here. A Stifle, maybe? No. Okay, we managed to get a win. Finally found that blue-black scam. So, what do I like here? Dismember doesn't kill Psychic Frog a lot of the time, which feels horrible, but is the nature of things. The Vexing Bauble is good against what our opponent's doing, more so on the play than on the draw, but it's certainly something to think about. The Faerie Macabres are kind of useful here too. I don't really want the Atraxa. If our opponent discards it and then reanimates it, that is really annoying, but it's only a one-of, and it is quite a scary thing that we can go and find. We definitely need the Endurances here to stop the worst excesses of what our opponent's deck can do. I think we're probably just trimming a couple of Hierarchs here. Is it just another Hierarch as well? What's our creature amount looking like? We've got these two as well. 24 creatures? 25, 26 creatures? That's probably okay. I could trim one Springheart Nantuko. Not a fan of having this Craterhoof in my opener. Do like Hierarch into Cradle as a thing. Alright, I'm going to keep this. Brainstorm just in the raw like that. That is intriguing. That suggests to me that our opponent has a Troll of Khazad-dûm that they can cycle here. Otherwise, this Brainstorm feels pretty weak without the ability to shuffle. Or they're building up for a really, really important turn 2. Another natural order. I don't want to get this land wastelanded, so I will be fetching a basic forest here. We do have a black card, but we don't have to cast it immediately. I just don't want to get wastelanded here. The other option is to Zenith here for a Dryad Arbor. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that actually. Is that better than the Hierarch? I don't think it is better than the Hierarch. The Zenith's more flexible. So next time we can Zenith, and then we can get the Cradle, tap it for 2. And with the Hierarch, we then get to cast an Endurance. A Grief. Pitching Troll of Khazad-dûm. They're evoking in a weird order here. So we can just play this. We can pitch cast this Endurance, but then we'll lose another card, and I don't know if that's going to work. Like, we lose 3 cards if we do that. If our opponent reanimates, then we only lose 2 cards total anyway. The Endurance pitch cast is more for like the big scary entomb monsters like your Atraxa and your Archon of Cruelty that we can't really beat. I don't really want to be wasting my Endurance just to stop a Grief from taking like one extra card or whatever. Alright, we lost our endurance. Not a surprise. If they Entomb reanimate us... Oh, no, sorry, we didn't lose endurance. We lost the Green Sun Zenith. Let's cast the Green Sun Zenith. X equals 0, so we can get the Dryad Arbor and do the line that we were going to do before. Okay, so now we're holding up the endurance. Now they might have dazes and things, so it might not matter. But we've got something. We can also use that just to beat down and pressure our opponent with. I think we're going to see a Surveil land off of this fetch land now. There it is. There's a basic island from our opponent. We're going to see here, Frog. Animate dead on a grief. Well, they know that we have this endurance. Okay, we got a Force of Will out of our endurance. That's more than I was expecting. That means our natural order is going to resolve. I assume they're going to take it, actually, right? With the grief. But if we draw another one, it can resolve. And this means that our hand is going to look pretty bad after this. We don't have that black mana we need for the white, because we played around a wasteland earlier. Okay, let's just draw another natural order. Let's get our Thoughtseize Bug rolling. Would I trade my Dryad Arbor for grief? Probably not. Let's play a Reclaimer. Just need to get towards hard casting the Craterhoof, I suppose. Our opponent has perfect information because they saw our hand before. Yeah, I'll just take 2 from this grief. It's not the biggest amount of damage. We got time and life points there. We're trying to avoid the scarier threats, really. Another Cradle. So we tap this for 3 mana. Play this one, we tap this for 3 mana. That's 6. We tap these 2. That's probably okay. That does leave us exposed a little bit, though, doesn't it? 6, 6, 7, 8. I think that's okay. You got Force of Will blue card there, opponent. Here's your last 2 cards. Post through a daze. A black mana. They're going to try and reduce the amount of creatures we have in play. Suffice to say, we are very much winning the race here. Let's bash for 12. An Understate Seals from our opponent. Black, black. And 1. Another grief shot. They can take our white. They can't double block and kill our Craterhoof because the animate dead means that their grief is a 2-power guy. And our Craterhoof attacks as a 6. So they have to lose both of their guys. Alright. Our Craterhoof doesn't have trample. They can just chump block with 1 grief. And then chump block next turn. Which is the correct thing to do if they can't kill it. And if they like draw a Brazen Borrower and bounce it, we can just recast it because we have Craterhoof. Actually, no, we need another creature first, don't we? I didn't draw anything there, which means that the Craterhoof has to be blocked by the grief. Surprised I didn't keep the land in hand for brainstorm purposes. Oh, we get to do a really cool thing right now. Big fan of this. Let's bestow this on the Craterhoof. Let's play this. Keep this one. And then we make a copy of the Craterhoof. Springheart Nantuko probably never copied anything quite as good as a Craterhoof before. We're on the board. We played the over 50% of the meta deck that is really broken and needs to be banned from Legacy, and our deck is pretty good against it, which the person who built this deck and what they've been posting on Twitter, that seems to be the case, that this is alright into that. And we've been struggling against other stuff, but we managed to do alright into this one. So we've got one more round to go. Let's see if we play the horrible scary deck or something else that just punks us. Let's see if we can get 2-3. I'm not a fan of having this Atraxa in my opener. I do like the Green Sun Zenith and the Hierarch though. I think... I don't want to keep this. I think so. Mulliganing in this current format is always a bit scary because your opponent can just take 2 of your cards and leave you with nothing. Another Swamp player, eh? We're going to get Dark Ritual into Opposition Agent here. I hope not. Right, it didn't happen. Let's get this Hierarch out. Then we can start using Verdant Catacombs and Wooded Foothills, just getting more creatures in play via Dryad Arbor. Vadmir New Blood, cool. We're sort of like mono black, mid-rangey, scammy-ish. Let's crack this. I think we want to get a Dryad Arbor, and then we Green Sun here for 1. Just build up towards a big natural order turn. A wasteland. Alright, so probably going to lose our Dryad Arbor, which grows their Vadmir. Understood. But we have a 3-4 now. Our opponent has an Orcish Bowmasters. That can certainly be irritating. No attack. No Bowmasters in our opponent's hand. Good information to have. Oh, something's happening in our upkeep here. Go for throat targeting our Elvish Reclaimer. I don't want to save this creature. Do get phased out there. Okay, so now we'll play a land that can become a Dryad Arbor. And Orcish Bowmasters. Goodbye, Noble Hierarch. Well, we knew our opponent drew this turn, because they would have played that before if they had it. This Vadmir getting quite out of control already. Let's go get that Dryad Arbor. Just want maximum bodies. Let's get Bayou here. Let's get the Knight. Yikes. Yeah, opponent just has an awful lot of removal there. And now they've got a massive Menace lifelink guy. Alright, you can have a look at our hand. I don't think I've ever seen the Vadmir have the Menace lifelink part of its abilities before. Game's normally over before then. What to do? We can double block and then phase this out. That works. But then what? We can't go and get another one of these. We could play the Cradle and do something a little bit bigger. The Atraxa being in our hand here is certainly a problematic one. Okay, I think we play this out. And then we can Green Sun for 2. And that gets us a Springheart Nantuko. Or a Wight, which is better. The Wight gives us an additional body next turn, which is probably something we're going to need. It's going to give us 2 extra bodies. We have a plan. It's not a good plan, but it's the only one we've got. Yeah, that probably beats us here, doesn't it? They ping down on the Dryad Arbor here. Oh, they're pinging down this guy. That's annoying in a different way. So we could phase out the Vadmir. Oh, our opponent's still got more stuff here. More removal. Reanimate on Noble Hierarch. Okay, I don't care about that. Let's phase this out. So play this out. Get big daddy hoofs. So unfortunately not quite enough to do what we need it to, though, is it? We've got a lot of creatures, haven't we, in the graveyard? 1, 2, 3, 4. So this will be a 6/6. So this can trade with Vadmir next turn if we're still alive. I think we just attack with just the Dryad Arbor here, isn't it? It's not very good on blocks. We have to hope our opponent doesn't target us with anything. We have to trade our Behemoth and our Reclaimer. Well, we only have to trade one of them, technically. Gix. Okay. That's pretty good. So I'm going to attack with Vadmir, who will be an 8/8. We can put 8 points of power in front of it, and we trade one thing. This puts us to 1, and our opponent gets to draw 3 cards. And then we have a bit of a blank on top here, right? So we have 3 blockers. Our opponent will have 4 attackers. Yeah, I don't think we can win this one. Okay, another match where our removal spells don't look great, apart from... No, the Dismember's okay, but the other ones look pretty bad. We could play Faerie Macabre here. Our opponent does have some graveyard stuff, but they're not doing Entomb shenanigans, which is what I'm more scared of. So I don't think it's worth bringing the Faerie Macabre. I think we just want this one Dismember. I quite like the Springheart Nantuko here. Let's drop 1 Mana Dork, perhaps. Our opponent's got a lot of Bowmasters over there. We obviously need our Dorks to perform. But at least having a Dismember can stop just that one creature snowballing and taking this out. Okay, this seems good. We got lots of stuff we can work with here. We will need some more land, but I believe in the power of Once Upon a Time. There we go. I just want this good old forest. We'll just jam this Hierarch. So we can put a Springheart Nantuko onto like a Hierarch, and then it can't be pinged away. Thoughtseize. They might take the Springheart if they've got a way of stripping lots of little guys. That'd be annoying. Oh, they're going to take all of our Green Sun Zenith. That feels a very aggressive use of a surgical extraction there. Like, yes, it is a good card for us, but we still have like other cards going on. It's not like that's actually going to stop us from doing our game plan. It just means we're not going to be drawing those specific bits. And I don't know why you would immediately do that either, when you could just wait till our next draw step. Let's bestow this on our Hierarch here. Make a guy. Crack this. Bayou. Make a guy. And then we'll play the other one. So we have mixed creature types going on. Because this is an insect, this is a goblin shaman, this is a human druid. A wasteland. Okay, you're not committing anything to the board, we're getting to more stuff. And a fatal push. Sure. Our creature gets to stick, the bestow thing gets to stick around. Lair of the Hydra. So we can attack for 3 here. We can play a Hierarch and attack for 3 with just 1 creature. That's probably better. Then we can just start making this Lair of the Hydra a crack for a bit. If we get a little bit more mana. If we get Cradle, we can go big with it. If we get Cradle, we're just playing... should we play Atraxa here? Green, black, blue... No. Goodbye, Nantuko. You made us a lot of guys. Talon Gates. That can filter mana for the purposes of Atraxa. Just going to attack with this insect. Bash for 3. It's down to 12 already. We can just put this Talon Gates in at instant speed. Dalthy Voidwalker. Okay, that can't block. We're going to see like a fatal push or something, and then we can save our creature with the Talon Gates. Just cycling a troll. Am I putting in this Talon Gates now? If I draw a Cradle, that gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana. And the Gates lets us filter that to cast it. So I think we are putting this in. Do we care about which of these gets phased out? Not really. Yeah, if we draw the Cradle, we can just hard cast an Atraxa, if I've done my maths right. Do you got 1? We can probably just make like a big Lair of the Hydra here. Let's bash for 6. Our opponent has to block this with their Orc army token. Yeah, there you go. This means they might be able to reanimate their Orc army and ping us down. But we got plenty of targets to ping, and it's not the end of the world if they do ping one of them. Alright, our opponent is off of it. I don't think we have anything different to do other than what we've been doing here, so hit that submit button and go again. This hand doesn't really fill me with a lot of joy. I think we can do better. We need some like 1-drops to start the ball rolling. Alright, I'll keep this one. I don't really want this Dryad Arbor in my opener, so let's go along these lines. We're getting attacked. Inquisition of Kozilek. This can take any of our things. Do we fire off the Once Upon a Time now? Or do we wait to see what they take? I think we wait to see what they take, because if they don't take the Once Upon a Time, then we have more information on what to do with it. Whereas we go Once Upon a Time for something and then not want it after we've like lost another card. Just gives us the most amount of information about what our hand is going to look like by the time we actually want to start putting some spells down. I took the Hierarch. So now we know what we're looking for with our Once Upon a Time a bit better. I'd like a free spell, please. Let's see what you got. I will take this Elvish Reclaimer. Alright. Here comes a boy. Go for the throat. Okay, we're just going to get a load of 1-for-1 removal at our creatures. And then hopefully we can then just go over the top with something. But we'll see. Right, let's Zenith our way to victory. Okay, I guess we're not getting an Elvish Reclaimer. Not really a fan of the way our opponent's using their surgical extractions. I don't think I would board them in this matchup if I was our opponent. Unless I guess if they're like super terrified of natural order, but... Okay, I guess we get an Ignoble Hierarch here. And we're just lined up nicely for a Bowmasters to ping it down. And then we can't put these endurances into play. It's going to be a push, is it? Another Goyf. Sure. Not very good versus endurance, as a general rule. But we do need to be able to cast this endurance. Our opponent might be able to take us off that if they can hit this Ignoble Hierarch with something. A Lair of the Hydra. Okay, I would like this to be up and running. We can cast endurance instant speed off of our Hierarch, so we're going to play this, get this tap land out of the way now. Our opponent can't really attack with this Nethergoyf into our endurance. Like, they can probably grow it at instant speed a little bit, but not a lot. If you're unfamiliar with this one, it's a Tarmogoyf, but only looking at your graveyard. You can also escape it, which I've seen come up maybe twice. A Wasteland, you say? On the Lair of the Hydra. Okay. They're going for it. They have a fatal push here. They just telegraphed that push when they start tapping mana there. And that's why they've also made sure they got Revolt first. Alright, now it's cycling a Troll of Khazad-dûm. Yep, they have a fatal push as well. So they get to bash us for 2. They're going to extract this one from our hand. Yeah, that's annoying. But if we could draw, let's say, a natural order here, We just put a Atraxa into play. Then we'll win the game. That's not really what we wanted, was it? Do I play this out? And then we can use our Talon gates if we need to save a creature or to stop taking more damage. I think I'm happy to take just 2 here. Natural order, you say? Don't mind if I do. Our opponent hasn't shown its opposition agent. If they've got it, then... Well, they've got it, I suppose. Please don't do it to me, bro. Alright. We got there. So, our opponent had a couple of surgical extractions, which were definitely something I was glad to see, because that meant that we weren't actually getting busted up by anything. One of them did actually discard a card, but the other one did literally nothing. So, I don't think that's where you want the surgical extractions. We managed to come away with that one. We finished with a 2-3 record, which isn't great. Let's talk about the deck. So, we splashed up the blue-black RESCAMINATOR deck, which is currently at 52% of the meta now. It's basically going up every hour as well. It's bananas. So yeah, so we beat the big scary deck that needs a banning for sure. But we struggled against some of the other decks. We don't really interact very much with what our opponents are doing. We kind of just spear our stuff and hope that we can get over the top. And we don't have a particularly deep package of lands of our Wight of the Reliquary. And compared to decks like the old-fashioned Cradle Control with Fiend Artisan, we don't have all these cool silver bullet creatures we can find. We're kind of just like, no, we've just got lots of things. You know, we have lots of copies of Wight, lots of copies of Endurance, lots of copies of Springheart Nantuko, and a lot of other bits. So we're just using our things as redundancy. Now, that redundancy works quite well against all like the scammy type stuff, because that's what they're doing. They're hitting your cards, so you want more redundancy so you can still deliver your game plan. But against a deck like, let's say, that Nardu version of what we're playing, they've got more stuff to just go absolutely wild over the top with all their, you know, basically drawing their whole entire deck in a single turn, which is a matchup we could have actually won if we let our opponent play out both times, because they did run out of time almost. But I don't want to play Magic the Gathering that way, so I don't mind. And the problem with that is, yeah, we don't have the interaction to do that. And we don't have something as big and splashy as what they've got going on there. Like, yes, we do have a natural order, but natural ordering for Atraxa is fine. But if your opponent's playing like a Nardu combo deck, we get Atraxa, draw a bunch of cards, pass a turn, our opponent just draws the whole deck and we lose the game. So that's kind of a bit of a problem, I would say. And we did just get mangled up by opposition agent really hard in that one game against that mono black deck. We played against a lot of black decks today, which is not really a surprise given the state of all the grief shenanigans right now. Honestly, this deck, like, what were we doing with Wight of the Reliquary is a question I have here. What is it finding for us? It's finding cradles. That's fine. You know, it can find us some Dryad Arbors and stuff. But I played a Wight of the Reliquary deck a few weeks ago where we had quite a deep package. We were sort of like a black-green depths style deck with a big deep thing with Maze of Iths and Caracas and all sorts of stuff in it that we could find if we wanted to. And that deck felt really good, and the Wight felt like a really good card in that deck. But here, I don't know, it just didn't really seem to do very much. It was just, again, it's more redundancy. It's just trying to get hold of more copies of the things that we might need, like Bojuka Bog and Cradle. And I think that's fine. Like I said, I think that's fine if you're doing that into blue-black scam and stuff. But I think when you play against the rest of the format, that's a problem. Now, obviously, blue-black scam is a higher percentage of the meta now than basically any deck has been for a long time. I think you have to go back to maybe like the Flash days to have a meta this warped. And let me tell you, that was not where you wanted Magic the Gathering to be back then. So we are obviously a skew deck. And ideally, we want to be looking forward to what happens when they fix the format. And I don't think a deck that looks exactly like this is where you would want to be. I think you need to have more options. And what I really, really missed in this was having just a copy of Grist. Like, where is our Grist? That card is really good. We can tutor it for Green Sun Zenith, and it can just sort of snowball the game. And it can do a similar thing to Springheart Nantuko, where it just constantly pumps out little guys to make all of our Cradles better and our Behemoth and things. So I did feel like a Grist wouldn't have gone amiss in this deck. Also, I'm really not a lover of snuff out in decks at the moment. I just don't think it's a particularly playable card. I understand it's a cyborg card and can bring in stuff, but you want to remove creatures in some matchups. Like, let's say someone was playing an opposition agent. You're going to want to be able to remove it. And having one Dismember in your whole deck to remove it is not a great place to be. Nevertheless, like, I enjoy seeing innovations around the Cradle control space, even if it's not my exact sort of deck. I'd much rather be playing like a proper Landsy style thing, like the white deck that I played before, rather than the sort of the Green Sun Zenith creature-y type thing. But a lot of people working on decks that look a bit like this. I think our opponent in the sort of the Bant Zenith Nadu round, their deck kind of looked like it was doing similar things to us but better. I think you could very easily put Craterhoof Natural Order in that deck as well and just go, okay, I've got lots of I-win buttons, can you stop me? And I think that's not a bad way to play the game at the moment. Although, is Nadu going to be in this format for particularly long? I don't believe that Nadu is. So maybe it's not worth in the mid to long term building around that card. But you can still play like the sort of Abzani style build. So a bit like that Nadu build, but you can just cut the blue and you still get to run all the other bits and pieces that you wanted. And Springheart Nantuko is definitely making some splashes, even outside of doing Nadu things. That's pretty cool. But it's very hard to evaluate any decks in this meta of blue-black scam, but if it's going to be lots of blue-black scam, then you're going to have to play skew lists like this. And that's just the nature of things right now. Bit of a downer to end the video on, but the thing about Legacy right now is, yes, it may be in an awful position because of needing bans, but you can ban those cards and you can fix Legacy. And the card pool is so deep and so wonderful that there's always some stuff to build and some fun to have, even if you've got to thread the needle of some of the scary things that need banning here and there. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this one. Please remember to like and subscribe, it really does help the channel out. I'm starting to feel slightly better now, so hopefully in a couple of days I should be maybe back to normal. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Alright, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.
If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepts as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepts guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.